Good morning. Welcome to Theodore Parker Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Tom Keitel. I serve on the Music and Worship Committee, and I've been coming here for 13 years. As we enter into worship, we bring with us all our sorrows and joys of our week. And we know that we will be held in a loving community. Here we are reminded that we are part of something larger than ourselves. We seek to counter oppression, to work for healing and justice in a bruised and broken world. We invite all of you to bring your perspectives, your beliefs and doubts, and all that is unique and wondrous about you to our service. In the spirit of love, all are welcome here. For those of us joining in person, a few things you may want to know. Our congregation is mask optional, and if you would like to be seated in an area where others are wearing a mask, that section on the far wall is reserved for people wearing masks. You can use the QR codes on either the entrance or pull up an order of service on your phone, or take one of the large print copies that are available at either entrance today. Our service is being recorded and will be available on YouTube later. If you would like to have a joy or concern shared with the congregation today during our meditation and prayer, we invite you to fill out a card anytime before our meditation hymn on the table to your right. You may also light a silent candle of joy or concern at any time during our service today. People of all ages are welcome to move about the sanctuary as they need to, or to make themselves comfortable in the cozy zone up in the front of the first pew. Children's programming for elementary school age kids is happening today. And during the service, our chair care provider, Shay, is available to be with us in the nursery age children in the nursery located in our parish hall. Many thanks to Mary Beth Noonan, who is our camera point person today, and to Jennifer Bottomley, who is our Zoom usher. If you're new to Theodore Parker Church or are visiting today, we'd love for you to stay in touch. You're invited to fill out a connection card, which will give you an opportunity to sign up for our weekly e-news bulletin and to help us welcome you. A link to the connection card will be in the chat, as well as our contact information. Those joining us here in the sanctuary are encouraged to fill out a contact card, which you will find in your pews within the welcome brochure. Now, we'd like to take a moment to greet one another. For those of you on Zoom, please put on your video for this time to help us connect. Mary Beth, would you please put our sanctuary screen in gallery view so we can see our offsite congregation? Let's give everyone a wave. Sanctuary folks, the camera is under the clock at the back. As we continue to greet each other, if online, you may post a hello in the chat. If you are physically here in the sanctuary, we invite you to greet one another and say good morning. And please, ask for consent before offering a hug or a handshake. Please greet one another.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Heather Concanon, the minister of this congregation, and my pronouns are she, her, and it is my joy to welcome you to Theodore Parker Church this morning. This morning we have a guest preacher with us today, Reverend Elizabeth Nguyen, who will be offering our opening words. She's joining us remotely today. She is on the screen. Reverend Elizabeth is a QU community organizer and currently the migrant justice organizer with Community Justice Exchange and part of the founding team of the Boston Immigration Justice Accompaniment Network. She comes out of youth organizing in Boston and was formerly with Side with Love at the Unitarian Universalist Association. And she is currently organizing interfaith communities for ceasefire and taking action with Muslim Justice League. She grew up in UU congregations in the South and Midwest and is a member of First Parish Malden and a very dear friend of mine. So thank you, Reverend Elizabeth, for joining us today, and we will turn the opening words over to you.
Thank you so much. And while it saddens me that work brought me to the West Coast this weekend, I'm so grateful for all of the Zoom and tech folks who are allowing me to be present with you all today, particularly on this really special occasion after so many years as friends, Heather and alongside each other in this thing called ministry. Our opening words are by the poet Jaya John. We who are alive on this earth at this time have a duty, a responsibility, obligation to repair this world, no matter who harmed it or how it was harmed. By the virtue of the gift of miraculous life, we are ordained to be medicine, to make medicine, to choose healing and liberation today, tomorrow, and for all the suns and moons to come.
And I invite you to join in saying our chalice lighting words and our shared covenant, once in English and once in Spanish, in honor of our sibling community in Plazuelas, El Salvador. The words will be on our screen. And do we have a chalice lighter? Ava and James, are you lighting the chalice? Thank you. Did I skip the opening hymn? I did skip the opening hymn. Thank you. I thought this was unusual. We'll do the opening hymn right after this. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es nuestra oración. Esta es nuestra gran promesa, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad con amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros. And I invite us to rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn, Let the Life I Lead. Michael will lead us and the words will be on your screen.
Let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the life I lead speak for me. Let the friends I have speak for me. Let the friends I have speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the friends I have speak for me. Let the work I do speak for me. Let the work I do speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the love I do speak for me. Let the love I share speak for me. Let the love I share speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more Let the songs I sing speak for me. Okay, so I did it the other way around. Songs I sing. Let the songs I sing speak for me. Let the songs I sing speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the songs I sing speak for me. Okay, so let's do the first verse one more time. Let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the life I lead speak for me.
Good morning. And my name is Rose. I have the honor of serving as this congregation's religious educator. So glad to be with you all this morning. If we're a little bit discombobbled so far, the service, it might be because we have a really big event coming up this afternoon. I wonder, who knows, what's our big event this afternoon? Anyone? Installation. So I actually want to take my time today to talk a little bit about our installation service, because it is such a momentous event in the life of this community, and maybe your worship leaders are a little distracted because we're preparing for that. So this afternoon, we are hosting the installation of our new minister, of Reverend Heather Concannon. And it's a service to formally recognize her ministry at our congregation and also to welcome in the support. You'll see a whole lot of her colleagues, other UU ministers from near and far joining, and there's really a sense of bringing in community support for this ministry. When we first called Reverend Heather, of course, we voted for her, right? It was our choice to call her to this congregation. And this service both celebrates that choice and also brings in more support, brings in this kind of connection to the wider community of Unitarian Universalism that we want to call in. And we're doing this, of course, in the container of a worship service. And I thought it might be helpful to think about what it is to recognize something in a worship service. You know, what we get out of recognizing this kind of milestone in our community in that way. I'm wondering, does anyone know what the word worship means? What that means to you, how you've seen it used before? Anyone? Maybe not? Well, I'm sure she can answer. I'll just share my answer, no worries. There are a lot of ways to think about the word worship. My favorite, I imagine, well, I think Reverend Heather might, I've heard her say this as well, but my favorite is to look at the root of the word worship. It comes from an Old English word that I'm not going to try to pronounce directly. I don't really know the letters sound, but I know that it translates to condition of being worthy or considering things of worth. That's what this root word of worship is. So when we talk about a worship service, we're talking about this time we set apart, this way that we structure our time together to hold up what we think is of worth. Name something as worthy and really shape it as worthy by the way that we come together, by naming it as sacred and important. So in this case, for an installation service, I think that what we're doing as a community of people is naming that this church is important, that our congregation's life is important, that we want to recognize these milestones in worship. And that's really what I want to affirm about the installation service, that we believe in what we do here. We believe in what we teach, the way that we live out the life of our community. And I think that by celebrating that in worship, we make it more true in a way. When we come together for this kind of ritual, we make it real in the world that we believe that what we do is worthy. We recognize that for the outside, for the inside, on every level, it feels more true by our actions and coming together for ritual. So I hope that you'll carry that for the rest of this worship service, which of course is also happening. We're also very grateful that you all are here, and for our installation this afternoon, that we're holding up that what we do and how we are in this community is worthy. We're so grateful to have you all be a part of it. Okay, well, I'm gonna now invite Michael to lead us in our children's benediction. I'm gonna take the kids over to Children's Chapel. Great, yay.
For you shall go out in joy, for you shall go out in joy, and come back in peace, and come back in peace. Blessed be.
Friends, at this time in our service, we deepen into a space of meditation and prayer. And I invite you to enter into this moment here and now, and to feel the earth pushing back with its gentle gravity, to take a few nurturing breaths, and give yourself this time of stillness. If you're joining us here in the sanctuary this morning and you would like to have a joy or a concern included in our prayer time this morning, you can fill out a prayer during our centering hymn. And if you're joining us online and wish to have a joy or concern shared, I invite you to type that into the chat now. I invite you to remain seated and join in singing our centering hymn, Spirit Found Us, which will be on our slides and Michael will lead.
All right, this is a new one, so let me sing each line and you sing it back to me, and then we'll do it. So the first line is, in desperation, we found freedom. Go ahead. In desperation, we found freedom. In freedom, we found love. In freedom, we found love. In love, we found devotion. In love, we found devotion. In devotion, Spirit found us. Sorry about that. In devotion, Spirit found us. Okay, now let's sing the whole thing. In desperation, we found freedom. In freedom, we found love. In love, we found devotion. In devotion, Spirit found us. In desperation, we found freedom. In freedom, we found love. In love, we found devotion. In devotion, Spirit found us. In desperation,
Our joys and concerns this morning include a sorrow for Kenna Diaz, aunt of Ken Bittner, who is dealing with serious health issues. And from Jen Buckwald, for my friend who has gotten bad news about her cancer and her surgery has been moved up. For all of these joys and concerns, and for all those that remain unspoken in the sanctuary of our hearts, I will light one additional candle. And let us join together in a space of prayer. Holy One, known by many names, we come full of life, the joyful, heartbreaking, complex, nuanced, abundant life. We come with concern for the people of Rafah and Gaza, for loved ones dealing with new diagnoses, surgery, for ourselves when we wonder what our futures might hold, or have needs that we long to have filled. And we come with joy, too. Joy for the celebrations in our lives, joy for shared ministry, for taking time to notice what is of worth. Spirit of life and love, we come into community with abundant life. We come to celebrate life, to make meaning of life, to teach life. May we together be part of crafting a common life that takes each and every one of us into account and builds the world our hearts know is possible. May it be so, and amen. And together let us rest into several moments of shared silence, followed by our musical meditation.
Our reading this morning is a poem by Rafif Ziada, who is a Palestinian spoken word artist and human rights activist based in London, UK. She wrote the poem that we're about to hear during Israel's attacks on Gaza during the winter of 2008 to 2009. She says about her work, "The poems and music here have been written over several years, 3 wars, 2 sieges, too many borders, and many protests and picket lines. I hope they capture even a glimpse of the love and resilience of many friends and strangers who teach life with steadfast smile every day."
I'll start with this poem. I wrote this poem when the bombs were dropping on Gaza, and I was the media spokesperson for the coalition, doing a lot of the organizing. And we had stayed up to about 6 o'clock in the morning, perfecting every soundbite. And by the end, if you're Palestinian, you know most Palestinians get tired and start pronouncing our P's as B's. So we become Palestinians by the end of the day. So I was practicing my P's all night. And the next morning, one of the journalists asked me, "Don't you think it would all be fine if you just stopped teaching your children to hate?" I did not insult the person, I was very polite, but I wrote this poem as a response to these types of questions we Palestinians always get. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre that had to fit into sound bites and word limits. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre that had to fit into sound bites and word limits, filled enough with statistics to counter measured response. And I perfected my English and I learned my UN resolutions. But still, he asked me, "Ms. Ziada, don't you think everything would be resolved if you would just stop teaching so much hatred to your children?" Pause. I look inside of me for strength to be patient, but patience is not at the tip of my tongue as the bombs drop over Gaza. Patience has just escaped me. Pause. Smile. We teach life, sir. Rafif, remember to smile. Pause. We teach life, sir. We Palestinians teach life after they have occupied the last sky. We teach life after they have built their settlements and apartheid walls. After the last skies, we teach life, sir. But today, my body was a TV'd massacre made to fit into sound bites and word limits. And just give us a story, a human story. You see, this is not political. We just want to tell people about you and your people. So give us a human story. Don't mention that word apartheid and occupation. This is not political. You have to help me as a journalist to help you tell your story, which is not a political story. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre. How about you give us a story of a woman in Gaza who needs medication? How about you? Do you have enough bone-broken limbs to cover the sun? Hand me over your dead and give me the list of their names in 1,200 word limits. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre made to fit into sound bites and word limits and move those that are desensitized to terrorist blood. But they felt sorry. They felt sorry for the cattle over Gaza. So I give them UN resolutions and statistics, and we condemn and we deplore and we reject. And these are not two equal sides, occupier and occupied, and 100 dead, 200 dead, and 1,000 dead. And between that war crime and massacre, I vent out words and smile, not exotic, smile, not terrorist. And I recount 100 dead, 200 100 dead, 1,000 dead. Is anyone out there? Will anyone listen? I wish I could wail over their bodies. I wish I could just run barefoot in every refugee camp and hold every child, cover their ears so they wouldn't have to hear the sound of bombing for the rest of their life the way I do. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre, and let me just tell you, there is nothing your UN resolutions have ever done about this. And no soundbite I come up with, no matter how good my English gets, no soundbite, no soundbite, no soundbite, no soundbite will bring them back to life. No soundbite will fix this. We teach life, sir. We teach life, sir. We Palestinians wake up every morning to teach the rest of the world life, sir. Thank you.
Let us consider our offering for this week. Generosity is a spiritual practice in our Unitarian Universalist congregations. We give to remind ourselves of how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember we are part of something larger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred space. We give with gratitude for all that we have been given, and with the faith that together we have more than enough. Links to donate will be in the chat, or you can take a meditative moment writing out a check and sending it to the church after the service. Ushers will be coming around the sanctuary to collect an offering from those in the pews who wish to donate something more tangible. As Yukiko shares a Senora Isabella by Mampu, an offering to sustain this congregation of memory and hope will be gratefully received. Thank you.
I first see the words hovering over a video as I am scrolling through Instagram. We teach life, sir. And next to the words, young Palestinians wearing keffiyeh are dancing dabka, a joyous and ancient Arab folk dance. Around them, destruction, the aftermath of bombs. And they dance on, maybe despite the devastation, maybe because of it. I Google the words, we teach life, sir, and I learn of their origin. Poet and activist Rafif's words that we heard as our reading, her rebuttal after being accused of teaching hate. We teach life. So many days these days are a litany of loss. Ongoing pandemic, ongoing death and displacement in Sudan, Congo, Ukraine, Palestine, at scales that our brains can't grasp, or at least mine can't. And ongoing heartbreaks in our own lives, loved ones lost to age or sickness, death or disconnection, and a fear of even further losses as we watch so many parts of the country be taken by politics and practices that do not reflect our shared values of love and liberation for all. And so the social media scrolling that I turn to for escape instead asks me back, what does it mean amidst so much death and loss to teach life? I went to the Everglades this winter for the first time. My husband and I were staying with his family in southern Florida for an extended visit, extra help from grandparents for a young kiddo, and some bonus warmer weather. The day of our trip to the Everglades, it was raining and surprisingly cold. My brother bought us tickets, and we found out that he had bought them from a tour company owned by the Mikazuki tribe that operates on tribal land. I'm quickly distracted from wanting to learn more once we're on the airboat, wind whipping through our clothes, scrambling to keep a pair of giant ear protectors on a wriggly, very displeased baby. It's so loud that I have no way to communicate with my husband that I am beginning to doubt this particular chapter in the book of our lives titled, "Nothing is going to change because we have a baby, right?" And a primal feeling of protection is taking over me as I eye alligators feet away, eyeing my child. And amidst all of this, our very patient, unruffled guide pulls the airboat over and tells us the story of the 100 Mikazuki who refused the Trail of Tears, who escaped south, avoiding genocidal removal, and hid for their lives there in the Everglades. He tells us how they won their recognition as a sovereign nation in 1961, never having surrendered to the US government. He shows us the raised sleeping platforms they created to keep their little babies far from the eyes of alligators. He shows us the medicinal plants growing right there in the river of grass, as they call it, that can be used to ease pain, heal wounds. So much closer, he says, than driving the more than an hour into Miami to go to CVS. We spontaneously decide to stay there on the reservation for the day when we learn it's the first day of the annual Mikazuki Indian Arts and Crafts Festival, a celebration of the art, foodways, life, and culture of the descendants of those 100 who resisted and survived. Mikazuki young people run a fashion show of traditional and contemporary clothing designs. We watch alligator wrestling as the commentators share about the roots of the practice and how the skills are passed on from generation to generation of Mikazuki. Yes, because it is a form of entertainment that brings cash to the community, but also because it is a practice of skill and respect, worthy of teaching and inheriting. As the sun sets pink and gold over the vast lushness of the glades, we eat fry bread and chili next to a man wearing a "Teach Band History" button. I'm eating bread in a river of grass and being taught life. We stumbled on a cold and rainy day in the Everglades into a tiny window into the resistance and survival and continuation of a people, a community, practices, language, wit, humor, care, clothes, food, song. Amidst genocide, survival. Amidst assimilation, continuation. Amidst death, life. The other day, I was back to scrolling again, and I ran into those words from Jaya John that we opened with. We who are alive on earth at this time have a responsibility, obligation to repair this world, no matter who harmed it or how it was harmed, by the virtue of the gift of miraculous life. We are ordained to be medicine, to make medicine. This is what it means, I think, to teach life, to honor the gift of miraculous life that we have been given by being here, and use it to choose healing and liberation. Even and especially when that gift of life is being taken from so many. And now more than ever, not only do we need to be teachers of life in our own lives, but our faith communities and congregations need to be places where life is taught. So what does that really mean? When I think of the moments when I have felt like, yes, this is teaching life, these are some of the things I see. I see a refusal to surrender to death. I see humans who may have had the odds stacked against them. 100 Mikazuki 400 years ago who said, no, we're not going. And I'm sure others said to them, it's foolish and impossible and risky, and maybe even said, surely you will lose. Surely you will die in the river of grass. Palestinians right now dancing amidst bombs, and I'm sure others saying it's foolish and impossible and risky, and maybe even saying, surely you will lose. Surely you will die. But I see a refusal to surrender to death and to the death-making institutions of our world. A refusal to capitulate to the idea that the survival of one community must mean the death of another. I also see a stubborn, persistent passing down of the good. I see the patterns of skirts and dresses and coats that the Mikazuki have sewn, innovated, stewarded for generations. I see Dabki, the Arab folk dance, thousands of years old, learned and taught and shared in times of celebration and even amidst mourning. I see us this morning lighting a chalice, a symbol of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, fighting to bring aid and escape to Jewish communities during the Holocaust, and Sunday after Sunday, we light it. A symbol that continues to remind us to stand against anti-Semitism and anti-Muslim violence and for surviving and thriving of all, each day, every day. And the third thing I see is a choice to believe in life, no matter how unlikely, no matter how impossible. Because no one hides in the river of grass if they have already given up. No one dances amidst bombs if they have truly surrendered all futures. In her essay, Doomsday Diaries, October 7th through 17th, the Palestinian American writer Sarah Aziza remembers calling her father. He says, I used to have hope. She says, and now? He says, I don't know, but I do know that we will go on. Aziza writes, I know this truth, though I do not know its shape. It is not necessary to name it hope, but there is no denying the Palestinian ethos is overwhelmingly one of life. We insist on surviving, on loving even the shattered versions of existence granted to us. We are masters of paradox, she says, creating beauty and care inside cages beneath debris. We are fluent in absurdity, shape-shifting to sustain our humanity with ever-contracting walls. Ziza goes on and says, we know we deserve so much better, and so we press against our oppression with imagination and defiant love. She says, No number of bombs can extinguish the inborn will to live in dignity. A few weeks ago was my daughter's first Tet, first Vietnamese Lunar New Year. It always sneaks up on me, and I blame that on the fact that the date changes each year, that pesky lunar calendar. And I had gone back to work full-time just recently, and our household of 4 adults and 3 kids had expanded by 5 when we offered to host a newly arrived immigrant family who had been sleeping at Boston Logan. So the day of Tet found me frantically buying Vietnamese sweets, fresh fruit for my altar, feeling very unprepared, driving all over Malden, hunting down Bang Tet, the traditional celebratory rice, pork, and mung bean dish. Part of me felt silly. She won't even remember this. And part of me felt like it was a moment when I had to. Screw work and sleep deprivation and the chaos of 6 kids running around the house. I had to teach life. I had to teach what was good and pass it down. Because those traditions have persisted through French colonialism and Japanese invasion and American war, they have survived and been changed and shaped by each generation, by parents, mothers, fathers, aunts, and uncles, and handed to me. And I know that without us to live them, they will disappear, victims of our mainstream dominant American culture. And so we took my 10-month-old to her first Lunar New Year party, hosted by dear friends, both Chinese American queers, a party that would not have been recognizable to my grandfather as one celebrating Tet, and was still exactly the right party for Elena's first Lunar New Year. And she wore her adorable tiny ao dai, the traditional Vietnamese dress, and ate dumplings and roasted chicken and braised pork and stir-fried lotus root and bok choy and wood ear mushroom and whole fish and more roasted chicken and so many oranges, and stayed up way past her bedtime. And I put the traditions given to me into her very small, chubby hands. And I thought, yes, we are teaching life. And when I say we are teaching life, I mean we, because you cannot teach life alone. This community, you West Roxbury community, have taught me life. You taught me life when I was a young organizer, hungry to understand how change gets made and how ordinary people resist. You taught me life by opening your doors to nonviolent direct action trainings to support the fight against the West Roxbury gas pipeline. You taught me life when you hosted potlucks in this space, when your members led us in the streets and your minister led us in song and prayer. And you reminded me that faith communities can and must teach life, especially when the stakes are high and the death-dealing forces are everywhere. And we are now in another time of devastation, trying to teach life. We are learning together and organizing together and holding each other's truths and griefs and identities with tenderness and care. We are showing up and having hard conversations and letting our hearts be broken open. You are treating the connections right here, the way we sing together and eat together and protest together and learn together and pray together and tell our stories to each other and mourn together and build power together as a spiritual laboratory in this being human, in this teaching life. We are here. We have been given the gift of miraculous life. Let us honor it. We have many around us reminding us, inspiring us what it looks like to dance and escape to the river of grass and teach our children to eat bang tet. Let us refuse to surrender to death. Let us pass down all that is good. Let us believe in life and teach it. May we be teacher life even and especially amidst death and devastation. May we learn from all those who teach life. And may our communities of faith and this community be ones where people come among us and say, here, they are teaching life. May it be so, and amen.
Please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 108, My Life Flows On in Endless Song. My life flows on in endless song, above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn, that hails a new creation. Though all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars? I know the truth, it liveth. What though the darkness round me close? Songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
Good people, beloveds, may we refuse to surrender to death. May we pass down all that is good that has been passed down to us. And if we have not been passed down good things, may we make good things to pass down. And let us believe, against all odds and so much evidence to the contrary, in life. And let us teach life here and everywhere. May it be so.
Enormous gratitude to Reverend Elizabeth for joining us this morning and sharing a message with us. She'll be joining us for the installation as well remotely this afternoon. I have a number of announcements before our food. A few announcements about things coming up, and then most of my announcements, unsurprisingly, are about logistics for this afternoon. So coming up, we have a couple of things that I just want to draw your attention to if you can think past this afternoon, which I barely can, but one of the things is that this week, Wednesday, our Creating Theology Together 9-week course with Rose Galogli begins. If you are interested in signing up, please email Rose. It starts this Wednesday. I think it's going to be an amazing, amazing religious education course. So email Rose. Another thing that I want to draw your attention to is that on March 17th in the afternoon, we have a multi-generational candlelight dinner. There's been a number of candlelight dinners happening. We have a multi-generational one happening here. That does not mean it's just for kids and family. It means that it's for Good job. So please sign up. We're doing it here in the parish hall to accommodate enough people. So please sign up for that and see Kathy if you have any questions. I also want to draw your attention to the UU Mass Action Advocacy Day, which is coming up on March 26th. You do need to go to some orientations which are happening ahead of time, so please take a look at the weekly email. If you're able to join on March 26th, please take a look at the logistics for signing up for that. I think that's everything coming up. The main thing that I want to tell you about is some logistical information for our installation this afternoon. So today we are not going to have coffee hour or breakout rooms because this sanctuary is about to be transformed and set up kind of immediately after the service. There's a lot of musician stuff to set up. There's a lot of well, the coat racks are already here. The installation planning team has done an enormous amount of work. And part of that is because we are expecting 180 people this afternoon. So that is a lot of people. They will all fit in the sanctuary, but it does mean that we just need to be thoughtful about like centering, moving into the center of pews, making sure that there's space on the sides. In order to accommodate that, there's a couple of things that are going to be a little different that I want to draw your attention to. So this section will not be mask only. Everything in the whole sanctuary will be mask optional. We're not able to reserve this section over here for people who are wearing masks alone. So take that into consideration. Please carpool if you can. We're going to have almost no parking here on the church. There are 3 public lots around the church. I can only remember 2 of them. One of them is the bank parking lot. One of them is the commuter rail parking lot. James, I know you're not on this, but I'm looking at you anyway. And there's a public lot by the commuter rail lot. Great. And the bank, yep. So there's 3, bank, public lot, commuter rail lot, which you do have to pay for. And then please also try to arrive early. We're starting right at 2:30, but there's going to be a bunch of ministers all lined up in the back. So if you're able to arrive a little bit early and find some seats, that would probably, help with parking and flow of people, etc. And then lastly, I'm not going to do a receiving line this morning. I will just say hi to everybody right now, and I will see many of you this afternoon. But if you do have questions about this afternoon, please come find me, or if you need to connect, please come find me. I'll be around for a little bit. With that, thank you so much, and Yukiko will close us out. And I'm so excited for this afternoon and to spend the time celebrating and rejoicing in our shared ministry in this moment in this congregation. So thank you so much.